Hey guys, welcome to a very exciting semi-final that was played in the FIDE World Cup 2019. This game is played between Radjabov and Maxime. Radjabov is the white pieces and Maxime has the black pieces. It's an amazing game, so let's just dive into it. We have knight to f3, this is the ready opening, and now knight to f6 in response. We have c4, this turns into the English opening, and we have c5, the symmetrical variation of the English opening. And we have knight to c3, developing move. We have d5, and now c takes d5, we have knight takes d5, and e3, just getting some space into the center. Next move is d4, and this is how white is going to contest the center. We have knight takes c3. There is also a possibility of a move where knight can go back and have a wonderful game, but this is again another possibility, and it's all been played before. We have d takes c3, not with b takes c3, but instead capturing against the center, and usually either way is fine. We have queen to c7, just a developing move. There is a trick behind this move. Once you move this pawn either to e6 or e5, you're going to play bishop to d6 and then put some pressure on this h2 pawn. That's basically the idea behind this queen move. And we have e4 and e6 now. Trying to develop this piece and trying to put some pressure on the h2 pawn. We have bishop to d3, and all of the previous moves have been played before, but after this move it's a completely new game, and I think Radjabov out-prepared Maxime with this opening, because Maxime soon seems to lose the preparations, and he is basically into uncharted waters. At least he has an idea of how the positions are played, but he did not know exactly the move orders. So let's see what happens. Bishop to e7. Now not developing here, because this move will be met with queen to e2, and then he's going to just push the pawn. Right now, even if you make this bishop move, bishop to d6, you can't really attack this pawn because it's defended by the knight. So you have to first eliminate the knight, and only then will you be able to attack this pawn. And it becomes really difficult, so instead just putting the bishop on e7 and trying to castle kingside. We have queen to e2, and exactly the plan is now to push this pawn and just have a wonderful game. We have bishop to d7, developing move, and white castles here. Here black has to play bishop to c6, and there is a reason for it, because as soon as you push this pawn, you open up an attack on this knight here on f3, and you have to capture this knight and not allow it to get to either g6 or even support this pawn on e5. And if it gets to g5, then it becomes a very strong piece into the attack. Mainly once you castle kingside, it's going to be really tough for you. So here black had to play bishop to c6. But it was not, and he instead castled, which gave white really amazing advantage, and this is how it's played out. We have e5 now, pushing the pawn and blocking this diagonal from the queen and this bishop from coming to d6, and we have bishop to c6, finally making this move, but it's a little too late because now we get knight to g5 instead. So here, instead of the bishop to c6 move, what black should have played is just push the h pawn further onto h6 square and not allow either the knight or the bishop to jump into these squares, because of what followed, and it's just an amazing attack. So knight to g5, and we have h6, now trying to push this knight away, but there is no need to push this knight away as of now because of this amazing move, bishop to h7 check. You first make sure that the king goes into a corner, which is what happens, that's the only move you have available, so king to h8, And now you get bishop to c2. Even though bishop to c2 is the top recommended line, when I was watching this game live and various live streams, everybody was begging and asking the question, why wasn't bishop brought all the way back to b1? Which is also fine. The next what attack should have followed is queen to c2 and trying to checkmate here. Even though you get bishop captures the knight, you have this bishop, you can capture it, and the pawn can never capture because of the threat of checkmate. And we'll never know why this did not play out, but I want to show you this variation because it's an exciting variation and white gets a good advantage out of it. So if bishop was instead brought back to b1, then let's see what happens. We get bishop takes g5, eliminating the strong knight here on g5. We get bishop takes g5, and again you cannot allow you cannot capture this bishop here, because if you capture, you're getting checkmated soon, check, and then the only option is to move, and this is checkmate. There's nothing you could do. So after bishop takes g5, you cannot play this. You have to play knight to d7, trying to develop this knight, attacking this piece here, and getting some counterplay going. We get bishop to e7, now attacking your rook, and there is hardly anything you can do to defend this rook, because then once you try to defend it, I'm just going to move away, and now you don't even have your rook to support this attack on the f file. But after bishop to e7, we get queen takes e5, we get queen takes e5, the queens are off the board now, and knight takes e5, and you get bishop takes f8, rook takes f8, and after all this Mahabharata, we get rook to e1, and black here is down the exchange. You have one bishop each, one rook each, and one knight for a wonderful rook here. This rook, even though is not developed, it's not pretty hard to develop it, because currently with this rook to e1 move, you are attacking the knight. Your knight has to move, and then you're going to play either f3 and put your bishop, get these bishops off the board, and this is a complete winning position for white. At least grandmasters can definitely win from here. So bishop was not brought back to b1, but instead it was brought back to bishop to c2. It was just played here. And this is a slight error, but it's not really something that you need to think over. Either bishop to b1 or c2 is completely fine. We have c4, now trying to get some counterplay, not allowing the queen to come here and try to attack the square. I mean, you have to play this because there is no other alternative. You get rook to e1, now defending this wonderful pawn here on e5 twice, and queen to d8. Now you have to attack this piece, and there is nothing you can do because even captures here is not okay. Again, queen goes to h5, and it will deliver a checkmate on this h7 square. So you still cannot capture this knight. Now that you are ready to capture the knight, this knight will remaneuver itself to this wonderful square, and here is how you do it. Knight to h3, and the threat here now is knight to f4, and from f4 it is then going to h5. From here it is going to control all the key squares, this square, and it's pretty difficult position if you are black to defend. So we have queen to d5, and here it's an amazing move, mainly because now if you're not careful, if you try to do something else, then you have a checkmate here on g2. Obviously grandmasters will see all of this, and the plan was to put the knight here on f4, so which also protects this g2 pawn, and you don't really have to worry much. So that's what he does. We have knight to f4. It's a free knight move because now you protect this pawn and you attack the queen. The queen has to move. It cannot go to this square. There is no point in going to any of these files, so it has to go on the f file itself. And there is no point in capturing because you get queen captures. So that's not that's not a possible solution. So after this we have queen to c5, just getting out of an amazing attack. Now we get bishop to b1. See, now white is wasting a move, and if you can imagine white not wanting to waste a move, and if you can imagine the bishop already being on b1, here he could have even played queen to c2 and tried to checkmate. There are so many possible alternatives here. There is nothing you can do. I mean, if you can, let's do this. Let's show you the variation of what would happen. If, for example, b1 was played, then let's make a random move for black and assume that this move was previously played. Let's make a move a6, just a random move. Now you get queen to c2, which was the plan trying to attack this wonderful h7 square, and we get g6. Now you have to protect it. There is nothing you can do. You get knight captures g6 with check. You get f captures g6. That's something you have to do. And now bishop to e3, attacking this queen here. We get queen to d5. You have to defend it. Now queen captures g6. Rook to f7, you have to allow this rook sacrifice so that you could checkmate here on g2, but grandmasters or even white is not going to fall for this. He's just going to play f3, and now what are you going to do? You can play rook to g7, trying to attack the queen. Queen is just going to capture the h6 pawn and give you a check. You have to move your king or put your rook here in between, and moving the king is far better option. King to g8, because then you get checkmate as this square is protected. We have bishop to e4. Now again attacking the piece. You have to move your queen for the nth time, and after queen to d7 you get rook a to d1, again attacking the queen. Again the queen has to move. Queen to c8. And now look at this position. You have a wonderful queen here that is so close to checkmating the king. You have two bishops that are controlling the key diagonals, and these two can jump into the game. You have the rook controlling the only open d column, the d file, and you have this rook ready to jump into the attack. After these pieces are off the board, you can even imagine rook to d4 to g4, and it's going to be all over for black king. This is pretty scary, and to play this kind of a setup against a grandmaster, it's going to be really difficult. So which is why bishop back to b1 was a pretty good move that he should have played. But nonetheless, we have bishop to b1, from bishop to c2, bishop goes back to b1, and we have bishop to g5. Now black gets a get out of jail card, because he can finally attack this piece, and if not, he's just going to capture your c1 bishop here, and then you will have to struggle throughout the game. So there were much better ways to win this game, but this is not lost for white by any means. I mean, this is still a completely winning position for white. The attack is pretty strong for now. So let's see what happens. Knight takes e6, and this is an amazing move. He can go either to h5 and then protect the key squares, but Radjabov decides, I'm going to sacrifice a knight for an amazing gameplay. We have f takes e6, you have to take, and then we have bishop takes g5. We have queen to d5, now again threatening checkmate, not immediately capturing, because then again you will get, and I'll show you this variation. In case after bishop takes g5 you play this move, pawn captures on g5, then you get queen to h5 check first. Once the king moves, then now you cannot give a check here, because even though this is protected, this square is protected, the king can run away, right? So you have to first block the king. How are you going to do that? Bishop to h7 check. And now the only possible square is again to go to h8 because this is covered by the queen. The square is covered by the queen. So that's what you have to play. And now you play bishop to g6 and you open a discovered check, and now you protect this f7 square by this bishop, and once the king moves, now you deliver a checkmate here. So this would be a pretty tragic ending, but that's not what happened. So after knight takes e6, we have f takes e6, bishop takes g5, and not capturing with the pawn, but queen to d5, now again threatening a checkmate on g2. We have queen to g4, defending the threat. There was another alternative, and I'm going to show it to you. It's f4. After f4, you get queens exchanged off the board, and which is completely fine. You go into the end game, and the pawn structure of black is the worst that you will see in any of the championship games. And this is how it happens. Queen takes g2 with check. The only move you have is capturing with the queen. So queen captures g2. We have bishop takes g2. And now king takes g2. We have h takes g5, finally eliminating this extra bishop that you had. Now bishop to e4, simply attacking this diagonal. And nothing you can do to defend this pawn. But in the meantime, you have to develop your own pieces, so you can start developing them at least. Knight to d7, finally getting this knight into the game, which was completely out of this game so far. And now even if you immediately capture, it's fine. The knight is going to come here and attack your piece, or you have to move your rook first, and then you get rook captures on b2, which is not something you want to do because you want to keep this pawn chain going. So instead, not capturing, but you play f captures g5. Now you have two connected pawns on the king side, and your king is pretty close to supporting them as well. Knight takes e5, you have to let go of one of the pieces, and now bishop takes b7. Finally, you can eliminate this. Rook a to b8, attacking, and rook takes e5. You allow this. Rook captures b7, you allow this off the board, these pieces, and finally you can defend rook to e2. Everything is defended, there is no more pawns and pawns that black could grab. And look at this pawn structure. I mean, this is crazy. None of the pawns are protected. You have 4 pawn islands, and white just has 2 pawn islands, and this will be completely winning for white. You're going to create a pass pawn and keep pushing. You're going to get one of the rooks off the board and just completely win this game. So that was another alternative. After this move, queen to d5, you could have played f4 and gone into that end game. But instead, Radjabov decides, I want to keep the queens on the board, and he plays queen to g4. So after queen to g4, we get knight to d7, and we have bishop to e4 now. Knight takes e5, now attacking this queen. You capture my queen, I'm going to capture yours. That's basically the plan. But Radjabov says, nope, that's not what you're doing, and he moves his queen to h5. Now he's putting even more pressure on this h5. Queen to b5, getting the queen out of the threat here, and now bishop captures h6. We have bishop captures e4 and bishop to f4 first, opening up a discovered check. You have to move the queen. That's the only alternative you have. Or you can put your bishop here, but that would be a big mistake, as you would drop this piece for no reason. We have king to g8, and now again queen captures e4. You have to give up this piece, as if you exchange the queens off the board. Again, it's going to be useful for white because black has nothing to show for here. We have bishop to d5, protecting these 2 pawns and not allowing queen captures here. We get rook to e2. Now rook wants to protect this b2 pawn, and either wants to double up either an or, wants to double up on the e file, control this, and finally go after this piece. Eventually, slowly but surely, black's crumbling this position. We have rook to f5, now attacking the queen. We get queen to e2, defending this piece as well and getting out of the attack. We have queen to e8, now the queen has to come closer to the king side because these pieces are ready to jump in, not that way but this way. Even the a rook can come and join into the game, so the queen has to go there to defend. We have f3, solidifying this g pawn here, and there are no more threats, because now if queen to g6 is played, which was played in the game, queen to g6, there was a threat of queen captures on g2 and checkmate, but that threat was stopped after Radjabov played f3. We have h4 and rook a to f8, now getting the side, finally getting this piece which was stuck on a8 for the first 30 moves, doing nothing. It's just finally getting into the game. And bishop to g5. Now simply the idea is to defend any attacks from any of the rooks, because there are some possibilities of bishop captures here on f3, and then you cannot capture because of the pin here from the queen. So to get rid of any of those weaknesses, you have to put bishop here on g5. We get a6, just a waiting move, just waiting to see what white does. And we have rook to d1. Finally, this rook again, who was sitting here on a1, is coming into the game, attacking this piece here. And once this piece moves, you get the control of the open file. We have queen to e8, now going back and trying to re-maneuver the queen. We have rook to d4, trying to get the rook into the game via g4 square. And we have queen to c6. Now he is threatening to capture on f3 and trying to create some weaknesses. But that doesn't really work, and we'll show you why it doesn't work. So if bishop captures, if after you move the rook, bishop captures f3, we get g captures f3 and rook captures f3. We get queen takes e6 with check, so you have to trade off the queens now. And now after queen takes e6, we have rook takes e6 and rook to f1 check, king to h2, rook 8 to f2 check, rook f8 to f2 check, and you finally block this check with your rook, and there are no more checks to be given. It's a completely losing position because black is down an entire piece. So none of this was played, and after queen to c6, we get rook to g4. Now going after this pawn, and there's nothing black can do. It just has to wait and see what white does. King to h7, getting out of this pin, and bishop to f4. Now there is no sacrifices. Even if you want to sacrifice, sure, I'll take a free bishop. That's what white says. And that's why he played bishop to f4. Another idea is to move bishop to e5 and then control this square. So rook f8 to f7, just defending this. And now bishop to e5 as planned, again wanting to attack this piece here. Now we get b5, trying to advance the pawns and trying to get some counterplay on the queen side, but we have queen to f2. Now he will just protect everything, go from queen to f2 to queen to g3, and this pawn is eventually falling. We have queen to d7, now he wants to give some more protection to this pawn, and now queen to g3 as planned. We have rook to h5, just trying to get out of any h-rank weaknesses that you might follow soon, and not allowing this pawn to be pushed any further. We have bishop to d4, just a simple waiting move, and queen to c7. Now hoping the queens are exchanged off the board. Even if you exchange, Maxime is hoping that he could hold this for a draw. But Radjabov says not at all, that's not what's happening, and he moves rook to e5. Now there is no attack, and your rook here is also attacked. So what are you going to do? If you capture with the rook, you simply get bishop captures, and now you open an attack on this queen. The queen again has to move. This queen has been under attack for the most of this game, the black queen. So let's see what happens. Rook h to f5, now bringing this rook closer, so if you capture, I'm going to capture with my pawn, and all is well. But we'll see, that's not what happens. Rook to g5, now again putting more attackers on this piece. We have king to g8. The threat was again either rook check or pushing the pawn. I mean, there is nothing you can do about this. So we have h5, finally pushing the pawn, and rook captures g5, trying to get rid of one of the rook pairs. And there is so much tension on the board. Maxime thought, instead of calculating a lot, let's just get rid of one of the rooks. And to be honest with you guys, here Maxime had like 30-35 minutes on the board compared to Radjabov, who only had like 10 minutes on the clock. And even the reason is because Radjabov was always attacking, and there was only one or two options that Maxime had to consider, but there were so many variations that Radjabov could get into. So he had more calculations than Maxime. But nonetheless, they are grandmasters, they can calculate this precisely. So we get queen captures g5, and now finally you can advance this pawn. We get queen to e7, and again hoping for an exchange, but queen to g4 declining any such exchange. We have rook to f5, and this was the biggest blunder of the game. I do not know what Maxime was thinking. Maybe he wasn't, and he just gave up because there is nothing for him to do here, as he dropped a free rook. And it's nothing. I mean, there is nothing he can do. After queen captures f5, it was in this position that Maxime resigned the game. And the reason he resigned is because he gave away a free rook for nothing. If you get he captures f5, you get rook captures here on e7, and this pawn will now definitely fall. And you are white is just up a rook. There is nothing black can do in this position, and this is completely winning. Even if you try to defend this with bishop to f7, he says, okay, now I'm going to b7 with my rook. Eventually I'm going to play this b6 move and capture either of these pawns. Then what are you going to do? There's nothing you can do here. You just have to allow all of this. And you can try to push, you can try to get rid of one of these pawns, say bishop captures on h5, and after this there is nothing. I mean, you have to then allow this captures with rook captures on g7 with check. If you move here, that would be another biggest blunder, because then you just get bishop moves to g5, and this is all over. So you have to move your king to f8, and again the rook will come to g5, attack these two pieces, and it's all over. Then you get two connected pawns. Once you move this, two connected pawns, and there is nothing you can do here as black. So this goes to show you why the move order is so very important. And if you think back to the 10th position, I'm going to show you that position after before castles. If black would have played bishop here to c6 and attacked this knight, or not allow this pawn to be pushed, and if he still pushes the pawn, you just capture this knight, remove an attacker, and all is well. Or even after castling, and when e5 was played, you could have still protected your position by playing h6, but instead now Maxime played bishop to c6, but it was really late because now you're allowing this knight to get into the g5 square and there is nothing you can do. So move order is really important, and this game is a prime example of why even the grandmasters have to study all the lines completely with all the variations, and you have to know what to do at every single step. And in this age of supercomputers which aid all the grandmasters in developing these lines, Radjabov outplayed Maxime completely in the game, except the one slight error that he made, not bringing his bishop back to b1, but instead to c2, and then he had to waste a move. But it was a slight error, it was not a blunder or anything. It was still a fine position to play. It's just that he would have won much faster than what he did. It was a pretty exciting game, and with this win, Radjabov has entered the finals of the FIDE World Cup 2019 and also qualified for the Candidates Tournament of 2020. Amazing game, and goes to show you how much preparation is really important. So, with all this information and this game, I hope you enjoyed the game thoroughly. Please let me know if you have any questions, comments or concerns in the comment section below. And that's all from me. Namaste. See you next time.